He said he was off to a silent retreat to find his soul, but it turned out he'd checked into a hotel with his old flame. In the dead of night, my mother-in-law and I busted them. The brisket I'd spent all day smoking for him ended up as the weapon that torched my marriage. The scent of Tom Ford, masculine yet soft, filled our bedroom. It was the cologne Mike only wore for important events, or, apparently, spiritual journeys. In front of the large mirror on our oak dresser, my husband was buttoning his crisp, white linen shirt. His hair was perfectly styled, framing a face that always looked so calm, so reassuring. It was the final week of the year. Like every year before, Mike, the man I'd always known as the stoic, devoted pillar of our family, had decided to do a full 10-day silent meditation retreat at the renowned Mountain Ridge Zen Center. It was about an hour's drive from our house. His reason was always the same. He wanted to find total tranquility, to escape the noise of his high-pressure sales job and reset his intentions for the new year. "Honey, I put your vitamin packs in the front pocket of your bag," I said, zipping up his duffel. "And I packed that new insulated flannel I got you. Don't forget to wear it. It gets cold in the mountains at night." Mike turned around. His smile was perfect. The same smile that, 5 years ago, had made me say yes without a second thought. He walked over, cupping my face in his warm hands. "Thank you, sweetheart. You're an amazing wife. I'm sorry to leave you alone for the last 10 days of the year. I just really need to focus." He pulled me close. "Sarah, pray for me, okay? I hope this retreat brings a blessing to our marriage, to my business, and I hope next year there will be 3 of us." That last sentence made my eyes burn. We had been trying for a baby for so long. His request sounded so sincere, so full of hope. How could I possibly suspect a man who was asking for my prayers so he could go meditate for the future of our family? "Of course, Mike. I'm happy for you to go. Just text me when you can," I replied, kissing the back of his hand. "I'll probably be off my phone most of the time, Sarah. You know how these things are. The whole point is to disconnect from the world for a bit. If I'm slow to respond, don't be upset, okay?" I nodded firmly. It made perfect sense. That night, I walked him to the porch. His black SUV slowly pulled out of the driveway, disappearing into the dark. I waved until its taillights vanished around the corner. A swell of pride rose in my chest. Pride in having a husband who chose a silent retreat over a boozy New Year's party or just vegging out at home. I didn't know it then, but that was the beginning of the longest 10 days of my life. And I had no idea that SUV was never headed for the mountains. Our 2,000-square-foot house felt 3 times bigger without Mike in it. The first and second days crawled by. Normally, our evenings were filled with the clinking of forks and light chatter about our day or plans for the holidays. Now, the only sound was the true crime documentary I'd put on TV, turning the volume up to chase away the silence. I glanced at my phone as the evening news came on the second day. "Sarah, thinking of you, my Zen master. Hope the meditation is going well. What's for dinner at the retreat?" 2 hours later, a reply came. It was short. "Mike. Hey babe, just finished evening session. They serve vegetarian stuff. It's good. Hope you're okay at home. Going back to meditate now." I forced a smile, quickly pushing aside the flicker of disappointment. "He's at a retreat, Sarah. Stop being so needy." I scolded myself. He was seeking enlightenment, not on a vacation where he could FaceTime every 5 minutes. I felt guilty for even wanting his attention while he was trying to connect with his inner self. By the 3rd day, the quiet was becoming oppressive. I kept busy deep cleaning the house, washing the curtains, and starting my holiday baking. My mother-in-law, Carol, called that afternoon. "Has Mike checked in with you, Sarah?" Her firm but motherly voice asked over the phone. "Not much, Carol. He said he wants to focus on the retreat, so he's staying off his phone. I don't want to bother him." "Good for him," Carol replied. "A man needs his time to clear his head, but if he needs anything, you call me right away. You know how he gets. Sometimes he'll forget to eat if he's too wrapped up in something." "I will, Carol." Thanks. That conversation should have eased my mind. But for some reason, as night fell on the third day, a strange anxiety crept into my sleep. That night, I dreamed Mike came home. But when I opened the door, his face was a smooth, blank surface, no eyes, no nose, no mouth. I woke up gasping for air at 2 a.m., my nightgown soaked in a cold sweat. I called Mike. It rang once, then went straight to voicemail. A minute later, a text came through. Mike. Hey, we're in a late-night group meditation. Phone is on silent. Talk tomorrow. Love you. I let out a long breath, placing the phone on my nightstand. I felt foolish for bothering him, but the unsettling feeling from the nightmare wouldn't leave. It lingered in the corner of my heart like a stubborn piece of dust. The fourth day without Mike. The premonition didn't come like a lightning strike, but like a leaky faucet, slow, rhythmic, and driving me insane. That afternoon, I went to the local butcher for some groceries. As I saw a fresh, marbled brisket in the display case, I was struck with an idea. Mike adored my smoked brisket. It was my grandfather's recipe. Slow smoked for 12 hours until the bark was black and the meat melted in your mouth. Last year, during a work conference, Mike had complained about the bland hotel food. I'd driven 2 hours to deliver him a home-cooked meal, and his face had lit up like a Christmas tree. I'll make him a brisket, I murmured. A surprise for him when he's halfway through. The idea sparked a fire in me. I spent the entire day in the kitchen. The smell of hickory smoke, paprika, and brown sugar filled the house. The exhaustion from the long process seemed to vanish as I pictured Mike's face when I showed up with his favorite food. By 9 p.m., the brisket was perfect. The color was a deep mahogany. The meat was impossibly tender, and the aroma was intoxicating. I sliced it and arranged it neatly in a set of stainless steel thermos containers. The bottom tier held creamy mac and cheese, the middle held the brisket, and the top had coleslaw and a side of pickles. While waiting for the right time to leave, I sent Mike another text, just to test the waters. Sarah. Hey, honey. Still surviving the silence? Miss home yet? 2 gray check marks. Not delivered. At 11 p.m., Mike's WhatsApp status flickered to online for a few seconds, then went dark again. My message was still unread. Strange. If he opened the app, why wouldn't he read his wife's message? The one right at the top. Maybe he just accidentally opened it, I reasoned. Or checked a work group chat. I was still trying to find excuses, but a small part of my mind was starting to rebel. Why did this feel so wrong? The clock struck midnight. I had showered and dressed in a comfortable but nice pair of jeans and a sweater. The containers of food were ready. My car keys were in my hand. Here we go, I whispered to myself. My intention was pure. A loving wife, delivering a hot meal to her husband. I hadn't told him I was coming. I wanted to see the surprise and joy on his face. I wanted to hug him, just for a moment, in the main hall of the center, to absorb some of his spiritual energy and calm my anxious heart. I started the car. The engine's hum broke the garage's silence. My sense of dread grew with every rotation of the tires leaving our neighborhood. The city streets were quiet, but not empty. The hour-long drive to the Zen Center in the next county felt shorter with the empty roads. I put on a calming podcast to steady my racing heart. Why was I so nervous? I was just going to see my own husband. At 1 a.m., I pulled into the parking lot of the Mountain Ridge Zen Center. The place was beautiful. A series of modern wooden buildings nestled in the pines. The main hall was illuminated by soft spotlights. The parking lot was full of cars belonging to the retreat participants. The atmosphere was alive, yet silent with a sense of deep focus. I got out, carrying the insulated bag. The cold mountain air bit at my skin, making me pull my jacket tighter. I walked toward the main hall. A few men were sleeping on cots on the wraparound porch. Others sat in small groups, reading. My eyes scanned every face, searching for Mike. He was tall, with clean-cut dark hair. His duffel bag was a navy blue one with a sticker of his favorite football team on it. Easy to spot. I walked slowly, respectfully, past the people resting. I headed towards the designated gear storage area on the right wing of the building, where attendees left their belongings to keep the meditation hall clear. Hundreds of bags were stacked on shelves. I scanned them, my eyes sharp. Navy blue football sticker. Nothing. Maybe he brought it inside, I thought. I couldn't enter the main meditation hall for men. It was a sacred space. I stood at the partition, trying to peek inside. Dozens of people were sitting in silent meditation. I waited for 10 minutes, then 20. Finally, a bell chimed softly, and people began to rise and stretch. I squinted, searching for the familiar shape of his back. He wasn't there. Panic began to set in. I pulled out my phone and tried calling him. It rang, but he didn't pick up. I called again. This time, he declined it. Then, a text came through. Mike. Sarah, for God's sake. I'm in a deep meditation session. Stop calling. It's distracting everyone. I'm turning my phone off. My brow furrowed. In deep meditation? I was standing right at a side door with a direct view of the main floor. I could see nearly the entire room through a gap in the curtain. There were indeed many people meditating, but Mike was not one of them. I was 100% sure. I knew his posture. The linen shirt he'd worn. Even the way he sat. He was not in that room. Ma'am? Can I help you with something? A voice startled me. A middle-aged man in a vest that read staff approached me with a kind smile. His face was tired, but his eyes were gentle. Oh, yes. My voice trembled. I'm here to drop off a late dinner for my husband. He said he was at this retreat. Oh, that's so thoughtful of you. The man smiled. Where is he sitting? I can go get him for you. That's the problem, sir. I've been looking everywhere, and I can't find him. I called him, and he said he was inside. But I looked, and he's not. Maybe he's in one of the upper-level private rooms, or perhaps the washroom, the man suggested. What's his name? I can check for you. Michael Peterson. Just a moment, ma'am. Let me check the registration data. All overnight, participants must register and provide ID for security. My heart skipped a beat. Registration data? Of course. I followed the staff member to a small glass office on the corner of the porch. Inside, 2 young volunteers were typing on laptops, and a man who looked like the head instructor was reading a book. Daniel, this lady is looking for her husband. She brought him food but can't find him, the staffer reported. The lead instructor, whose name tag read Brother Daniel, nodded politely. Please, have a seat. What was your husband's name? Michael Peterson, I said quickly. My hands were squeezing the handle of the food carrier so hard my knuckles turned white. He's been here since the first day of the retreat. 5 days ago. Brother Daniel typed the name into his laptop. His eyes narrowed at the screen. There was a moment of silence, punctuated only by the sound of his keystrokes, which felt like the ticking of a time bomb about to explode in my head. Michael Peterson. Brother Daniel mumbled. He hit the enter key again, then frowned. Ma'am, are you sure your husband officially registered? I'm positive, I insisted. He said he signed up for the full 10-day package. He brought a big duffel bag. Brother Daniel turned his laptop towards me. The screen displayed a spreadsheet with hundreds of names. Mrs. Peterson, this is our real-time data. Everyone who checked in and provided ID is on this list. Sorted alphabetically, my finger traced down the screen. Miller, Mitchell, Moore, Morgan. There was no Peterson. Maybe his name got misspelled, or he forgot to register. I stammered, still trying to deny the reality my brain was refusing to accept. My husband wouldn't lie about something like this. Our system is very strict, ma'am. Anyone not on the list isn't permitted to stay overnight in the designated areas. Security would have escorted them out. Let me check the photo folder from the first day's orientation. Brother Daniel opened another folder. It was filled with pictures of the crowd of participants from the opening briefing. You know what your husband looks like, of course. Please, take a look. I stared at the photos one by one. Hundreds of men's faces. I searched desperately, my eyes starting to well up, my vision blurring. 1 photo, 2 photos, 10 photos. Nothing. He's not here. My voice caught in my throat. He's not in any of these pictures. Brother Daniel looked at me with a pity I hated, the look of someone who knows they're talking to a woman who has been lied to. Ma'am, he said softly, choosing his words with care. For the past 5 days, we've taken attendance at every meal service. No one named Michael Peterson has ever collected a meal. And I am the lead instructor for this retreat. I know almost every face here. I can assure you, your husband is not at this center. Not today, and not 5 days ago. Boom! The world around me collapsed. The cold floor of the retreat center seemed to suck the energy right out of me. My legs went weak. The food carrier slipped from my hand, but the staffer caught it before it could crash to the floor. But he just texted me. I sobbed, the tears finally breaking free. He said he was meditating. He said, I couldn't go on. The words were choked by a wave of pain, shock, and rage. Mike had lied. He wasn't seeking enlightenment. He wasn't connecting with his inner self. He was using a spiritual journey, using my trust, to hide something. Deep breaths, ma'am, Brother Daniel said, handing me a bottle of water. I stared at my phone's glowing screen. Mike's last message was still there. Hey, we're in a late-night group meditation. Love you. The words now felt like the cruelest joke. I took a sip of water, my hand trembling. The cold liquid did nothing to extinguish the fire of betrayal that was starting to burn in my chest. It wasn't just jealousy. It was the fury of a wife whose intelligence and devotion had been utterly trampled. Thank you, I said, standing up and wiping my tears away with the back of my hand. My sad face hardened. Thank you for confirming it. Where are you going, ma'am? It's almost 2 a.m., the staffer asked with concern. I'm going to find my husband, I said. I have to find out what his real retreat looks like. I took back the food carrier. The brisket inside was still warm, but my heart had turned to ice. I walked out of that office with long, determined strides. The crying, naive Sarah was gone. In her place was a woman ready to expose a lie, even if it meant shattering her own heart into a million pieces. The Zen Center parking lot felt even colder now, the chill seeping into my bones. But it was nothing compared to the ice forming in my chest. I sat behind the wheel of my car, engine off, in complete silence. There was only me, the dark cabin, and the blinding light of my phone. My hand shook as I hit the call button one more time, dialing my Zen master, Mike. This was the deciding call. I was no longer a lonely wife. I was an investigator searching for a crack in the story. I activated the voice recorder app on my phone. I needed proof. My gut told me this night would change everything. Ring, ring, ring. On the 3rd ring, he picked up. Hello, sweetheart. Mike's voice was heavy, hoarse, and whispered, exactly like someone trying not to disturb a sacred space. Sorry. I just stepped out. The session was incredibly intense. My heart felt like it had been struck with a hammer. His tone was so calm, so convincing. If I weren't sitting right here, at the place he was supposed to be, I would have melted. I would have felt guilty for bothering him. Hi, Mike, I replied, forcing my voice to sound normal, swallowing the sob that wanted to erupt from my throat. You're still at the center? Yeah, of course, babe. Still here. We're about to start the final pre-dawn session. Why are you still up? You'll be exhausted tomorrow. His voice held a slight tone of gentle reprimand. I closed my eyes, feeling a searing pain in my chest. The lies rolled off his tongue so smoothly. No hesitation, no stutter. He was a professional. Mike, I said, softly. Is it crowded there? Oh yeah, it's packed. That's probably why the cell service is so spotty. I had to step out by the main pillar to get a signal to call you back. Is everything okay? Is it an emergency? I glanced at the magnificent Zen Center, 50 yards in front of me. Packed, yes. But the main pillar where he claimed to be standing was empty. His name wasn't on the list. His face wasn't in Brother Daniel's memory. No emergency, I lied. Just missed you. Are you really there, Mike? There was a brief silence. He probably thought my question was strange. Sarah, what's gotten into you? Of course I'm here. Do you think I'd lie about something like this? It's the end of the year, a time for reflection. What kind of man do you think I am? That line was a slap in the face. What kind of man do you think I am? Right now, I was starting to wonder if he was a man at all, or just a monster I'd been sharing a bed with. Suddenly, I heard a faint sound through the phone. It wasn't the hum of ventilation or the echo of chanting. It was the distinct clink of a fork against a ceramic plate. It was very quiet. But my ears caught it. And another sound. A woman's soft laugh. Like she was watching a sitcom on TV. Mike, what's that noise? I asked, my voice sharp. Huh? What noise? He sounded nervous for a split second. Oh, that's just some of the other attendees having a late snack. You know, rice cakes or something. The sound really echoes in the main hall. Rice cakes on a ceramic plate, Mike? Babe, the signal is breaking up. I gotta go. The session is starting. I love you. Bye. Click. He hung up on me. I stared at the dark screen of my phone. The recording was saved. Exhibit A. Proof that my husband was not just a liar, but a masterful manipulator who used spirituality as his shield. I started the engine. My knuckles were white as I gripped the steering wheel. I wasn't going home. That house felt alien now, filled with false memories. I needed an anchor before my world completely shattered. I needed someone who hated lies even more than I did. I turned the wheel, pointing the car toward Carol's house. At 2:45 a.m., my mother-in-law's house was dark except for a dim porch light. She'd lived alone since my father-in-law passed away 2 years ago. She was a tough, disciplined woman who had zero tolerance for dishonesty. Mike was her only child, her pride and joy. And tonight, I was about to demolish that pride. I rang the doorbell repeatedly, impatiently. 5 minutes later, the living room light flicked on. The front door opened. Carol appeared, already dressed in a comfortable sweatsuit, probably up for a late-night cup of tea. Her normally stern face was filled with confusion, seeing her daughter-in-law on her doorstep in the middle of the night, eyes swollen, clutching a bag of food. Sarah? Carol unlocked the screen door, her voice laced with concern. My God, child, what are you doing here at this hour? Where's Michael? What happened? I couldn't answer. The moment the door was open, I fell into the older woman's arms, and my tears broke free. The wall I had built at the retreat crumbled in the embrace of the mother of the man who had broken me. Shh, calm down. Come inside. Carol guided me to the living room sofa. She got me a glass of water. Drink this. Take a deep breath. Once my sobs subsided, she looked at me intently, her eyes sharp and probing. Now, you tell me what's going on. Why are you crying like this? And why isn't Michael with you? Isn't he at that retreat? I placed my phone on the coffee table, my hand shaking. I played the recording. Mike's whispers, the clinking fork, the woman's laugh, and his pathetic lie about the attendees' snack. Carol listened, her expression unreadable, but I saw her jaw tighten. That was recorded 10 minutes ago, Carol, I said, my voice hoarse. I just came from the Zen Center. I wanted to surprise him with dinner, but the staff there said Michael never registered. He hasn't been there at all. Carol was silent, her eyes fixed on the wall as if processing an impossible truth. Are you sure the staff didn't make a mistake? She asked, her voice low, dangerous. I saw the registration list myself, Carol. I looked at the photos from the first day. He wasn't there. And when I called him, he lied again. He said he was right there, in the meditation hall. Carol closed her eyes, her hand clenching the TV remote so tightly I thought it would snap. I was afraid she would blame me or defend her only son, like so many mothers-in-law on TV shows. But Carol was different. "That son of a bitch!" she hissed. Her eyes opened, and I saw a fire burning in them. Not at me, but at her son. He dared to play games with God. He dared to lie to his mother. He came to me, Sarah. He asked for my blessing for his retreat. He hugged me before he left. Carol stood up, pacing the living room, her breathing heavy. "Sarah, you know what I hate more than anything in this world? Liars," I whispered. "Exactly. Your father-in-law died with a clear conscience because he was an honest man. I raised Michael to be a responsible man. If he had an affair, that's a terrible sin. But to have an affair while pretending to be on a spiritual quest, that's the work of the devil himself." She stopped pacing and looked at me. "We have to find him. Now." "But I don't know where he is, Carol. All I have is this recording. You're a modern woman, Sarah. You can't track him?" Carol, despite her age, was sharp. "Check his credit card statements. Check his email. Michael is sloppy. He always leaves a trail." It hit me. She was right. I was too emotional to think logically. His main phone is with him, but his email is synced to the iPad we use for Netflix. The iPad is at our house. "We'll go now," Carol said. "That's too far. It'll take another hour round trip. We'll lose him." "Can you access it from your phone?" she pressed. I pulled out my phone. I know his email password. He gave it to me once to book flights. Open it. Now. Find out where that disrespectful child is hiding. Under the bright lights of the living room, Carol and I were like two detectives on a mission. My heart pounded as I typed in Mike's email address and password. Loading. Access granted. Thank God he hadn't changed it. Check the inbox or the promotions tab. Booking confirmations usually end up there, Carol instructed, peering over my shoulder. I scrolled quickly. Work emails, utility bills, newsletters. Then my eyes caught it. An email from a popular travel booking website. Dated 5 days ago. Subject: Your hotel booking confirmation number ID 9928374. My blood ran cold. "I found it, Carol." My voice was a strangled whisper. I opened the email. The details were displayed in black and white. Guest name: Michael Peterson. Hotel: the Cypress Inn. Room: deluxe king bed. Duration: 10 nights. Checkout: tomorrow afternoon. Status: paid in full via credit card. The Cypress Inn. Carol read the words, her voice trembling with rage. "That's a hotel downtown. Be 20 minutes from here. That's a hotel downtown. There's more," I said, opening the DoorDash app, which was also linked to his Google account. I checked his order history. Sure enough, there was a food order delivered just 30 minutes ago. Restaurant: Midnight Diner, 24/7. Order: 2 all-American burgers, 2 large fries, 2 chocolate milkshakes. Total: $58.50. 2 portions, I whispered, a fresh tear dropping onto my phone screen. "He's eating with someone. He's not alone." Carol snatched the phone from my hand. She stared at the proof of the order, her eyes filled with a profound disappointment. "Burgers and milkshakes?" She laughed bitterly. "While his wife spends 12 hours smoking a brisket for him, while his mother is praying for him." She slammed the phone down on the table. "This is an insult, Sarah. An insult to you, to me, and to your marriage." "What do I do, Carol?" I asked, desperate. "Should I just go home? I can't face him." "Don't be ridiculous," Carol cut me off. "If you go home, he wins. He'll come back tomorrow with a saintly look on his face, full of fake stories about his spiritual awakening, and you'll be tortured for the rest of your life, keeping this secret." "No." She stood up straight, took a deep breath, and then walked to the hall closet, grabbing her car keys. "We're gonna bust him. Right now." "Bust him?" I was shocked. "Yes. We're going to deliver his late-night meal. In person. Let's see how he likes this surprise. And let's let the woman he's with know exactly who Michael Peterson really is. To be absolutely sure." I performed one last check. I opened the Find My Device feature through his Google account. A map appeared on the screen. A blue dot, blinking steadily, showed the current location of Mike's phone. It was stationary. The location was pinned precisely at the coordinates of the Cypress Inn on Meridian Street. Accuracy: 15 feet. There was no more doubt. Not at a retreat. Not on the road. Not abducted by aliens. My husband, Michael Peterson, was in a 3-star hotel room downtown, enjoying a burger with someone else, while he had sworn to me he was seeking enlightenment. "Let's go," Carol said. "We'll take my car. Leave yours here. That way he won't see it in the parking lot and get suspicious." Brilliant. Even in her rage, she was tactical. "What about the brisket, Carol?" "Should I leave it?" I asked, looking sadly at the insulated bag that had started to cool. Carol looked at the bag, then gave a smirk that sent a chill down my spine. "Bring it," she commanded. "You cooked that food with love and sweat. We're delivering it to Mr. Peterson. He has to eat it. Or at least see it." I nodded, grabbing the bag again. It felt heavier now, its meaning transformed. An hour ago, it was a symbol of devotion. Now, it was ammunition. We got into Carol's sedan. The car's clock read 3:15 a.m. Outside, the world was quiet. Inside, I felt like I was heading to my own execution. The drive to the Cypress Inn felt impossibly short, as if time itself was rushing us toward our fate. The streets were deserted. Inside the car, Carol was mostly silent, her thumb repeatedly clicking a pen in her hand. Click, click, click. The sound filled the tense silence. "Sarah," she said suddenly, her eyes still on the road. "Yes, Carol? Whatever happens in there, whatever you see, promise me one thing." "What's that?" "Don't lower yourself. Don't beg. Don't hit the woman, if there is one. Let me be the storm. You remain the sky. You are a classy woman, my daughter-in-law. Don't let that bastard turn you into a criminal." Tears pricked my eyes again at her words. "I promise, Carol." "One more thing," she added, her voice heavy with emotion. "If we find out he's been cheating, I will fully support you divorcing him. I won't stand in your way. I'm ashamed to have a son who can't honor his commitments." I looked at her profile in the dim light, the heart of a mother, breaking for her son's failures. I took her free hand. It was cold. Our hands were both ice cold. At 3:30 a.m., we pulled into the parking lot of the Cypress Inn. It wasn't a luxury hotel, but it was well kept. The lobby was brightly lit. A few cars were scattered in the lot. My eyes immediately scanned the vehicles, and there it was, tucked in a dark corner under a tree. Mike's black SUV. The license plate, M1KEP. "That's his car, Carol." I pointed, my voice trembling. My heart felt like it was going to explode. "Good," Carol said coldly. She parked her car directly in front of the main entrance, blocking the driveway. She didn't care. "Get ready, Sarah. Grab the brisket." We got out of the car. A security guard, dozing in his booth, jolted awake when he saw us park illegally. "Ma'am! Ma'am! You can't park there!" he shouted, jogging toward us. Carol ignored him. She marched toward the automatic glass doors of the lobby. I followed close behind, clutching the insulated bag like it was a bomb. We entered the lobby. The blast of cold AC hit us. A young male receptionist stood behind the counter, startled to see two women, one old, one young, storm in at this hour with faces like thunder. "Good morning, ma'am. Can I help? Why? What room is Michael Peterson in?" Carol cut him off, her voice booming in the quiet lobby. The receptionist was taken aback. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we can't give out guest information. It's a privacy violation. Privacy? Carol slammed her palm on the marble countertop. Crack! My son, Michael Peterson, is in this hotel. I am his mother. And this is his wife, she said, pointing at me. He told us he was at a silent meditation retreat, but his car is in your parking lot. Are you trying to protect an adulterer in your establishment? Do you want me to call the local news right now and tell them the Cypress Inn is a den of sin? Carol's threat was real. She pulled out her phone, ready to record. The receptionist turned pale. He looked at me, then at Carol, then at his computer screen. He knew he was in deep trouble. One moment, ma'am. Please, calm down. Let me check, he stammered. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Michael Peterson. Yes, he's here. What room? Carol demanded. Room 303, ma'am. On the 3rd floor. Give me a key. A duplicate key. I can't do that, ma'am. That's a major violation. I could be fired. You can just knock on the door. I don't care about your job. I care about my son's behavior. I stepped forward and gently touched Carol's arm. It's okay, Carol. Let's just go up. We'll knock. Let him be the one to open the door. Let him see who's come to visit. Carol looked at me, then nodded. Her breathing still heavy. Let's go. We walked to the elevator. As the doors closed, I saw my reflection in the polished steel walls. Pale, swollen eyes, disheveled hair. But strangely, I felt strong. I was no longer a victim. I was a wife demanding justice. Dan. The elevator opened on the 3rd floor. The hallway was silent, lined with a maroon carpet that muffled our footsteps. The faint scent of lavender air freshener hung in the air. We walked down the hall, 301, 302, and there it was, at the end of the hall, on the left. Room 303. From behind the door, we could faintly hear the sound of a TV, a late-night talk show. And then, we heard it. The laugh of a man. The laugh I missed so much. My husband's laugh. I stood frozen in front of the door, clutching the bag. Carol stood beside me, took a deep breath, and raised her fist. Bang, bang, bang. Her loud knocking shattered the hallway's silence. Room service! Carol yelled, her voice disguised. Silence from within. Then, the sound of footsteps approaching the door. The deadbolt turned. Click. The door opened slowly, and all hell broke loose. My heart felt like it stopped beating when the electronic lock beeped. Click. Time seemed to slow down. The door handle turned. I held my breath, my grip on the insulated bag so tight my knuckles ached. Beside me, Carol stood as still and solid as a rock, her face a cold mask, ready to confront whatever emerged. The door swung open. The dim, yellow light from the hotel hallway fell upon the person standing in the doorway. It was Mike. My husband. My rock. But it wasn't the Mike I knew. He wasn't wearing a crisp linen shirt. There was no serene, meditative glow on his face. He stood there, in nothing but a faded gray t-shirt and a pair of boxer shorts. His hair was a mess. His face was greasy. Sleep was still crusting the corners of his eyes. And the thing that made my chest constrict, the thing that sucked all the air from my lungs, was what he held between the index and middle fingers of his right hand. A lit cigarette, a thin plume of smoke curling towards the ceiling. Mike had told me he'd quit smoking 3 years ago. For our trying for a baby journey. He had sworn to me on his father's grave. Took you long enough, Mike grumbled, opening the door wider. He was looking down at the floor, assuming we were hotel staff with another food order. Where are the extra fries I asked for? When he lifted his head, his words died in his throat. His eyes widened in absolute shock. The cigarette dropped from his fingers onto the hallway carpet. His mouth fell open, but no sound came out. His face, which had been flushed from sleep, turned a ghostly white. It was pure, unadulterated terror in his eyes as he stared at the 2 most important women in his life, standing before him like twin angels of death. Carol? Sarah? His voice was a squeak, barely audible. Carol didn't speak. She glanced at the smoldering cigarette on the carpet, then looked at her son's face with utter disgust. Without a word, she shoved Mike hard in the chest, sending him stumbling backward into the room. "Get out of my way," she barked. "Mom, wait! This is a misunderstanding! Don't come in!" Mike panicked, trying to block the doorway with his arms. But I was already moving. Adrenaline had taken over. My respect for him as a husband had vanished the second I saw the lie standing right in front of me. I ducked under his arm and burst into the room. "A misunderstanding, Mike? A misunderstanding that you're at a hotel instead of a Zen center?" I screamed, my voice cracking, a torrent of rage and tears. I stepped into room 303. The air was frigid, the AC cranked to its lowest setting. But the smell made my stomach turn. A stale mix of cigarette smoke, cloying lavender air freshener, and the greasy odor of fast food. And there was another scent, a sweet, powerful woman's perfume. Not mine. The room was a disaster. A far cry from a place of spiritual retreat. On the vanity, an array of skincare products that weren't mine was scattered about. A hairdryer lay on the floor, its cord tangled. On a small armchair in the corner sat a flashy, fake-brand designer handbag, and a pair of black high heels kicked off carelessly beneath it. The TV was on, playing a comedy special at low volume. On the round table by the window, empty burger wrappers and milkshake cups were piled up. The logo for Midnight Diner was clearly visible on the greasy paper bag. Exactly as the DoorDash order had shown. "Sarah, listen to me. I can explain," Mike said, chasing after me, trying to grab my arm. "Don't you touch me." I yanked my arm away. "Don't touch me with the hand you held that cigarette with, the hand you used to lie to God." Carol came in and kicked the door shut behind her. Bam! The sound sealed the three of us inside our makeshift courtroom. "Where is she?" Carol asked, her voice like ice, her eyes scanning the room. "Who, Mom?" "There's no one here. I'm alone." Mike was still trying to lie, sweat beading on his forehead. I just needed some peace and quiet. The retreat was too crowded. I couldn't sleep, so I came here. "Liar!" Carol snapped. She walked over to the closet, which was slightly ajar. Hanging inside was a satin nightgown, a slinky peach-colored number. What kind of man goes on a silent retreat with a whore's nightgown? She ripped it from the hanger and threw it in Mike's face. "And those shoes?" I pointed to the high heels. "Did you start wearing heels, Mike?" Mike was speechless. He was cornered. Suddenly, the sound of the shower in the bathroom stopped. The bathroom door, near the entrance, opened. A cloud of steam billowed out. A woman stepped out, toweling her wet hair. She was wearing a fluffy white hotel bathrobe that was too big for her. Her face was fresh and makeup-free, but you could still see she was beautiful. She was humming softly, oblivious to our presence over the sound of the TV. "Babe, did you call for another towel?" Her words trailed off as she looked up and saw the scene in the middle of the room. Her eyes met mine, then darted to Carol, and finally landed on Mike, who stood frozen with a look of utter despair. Silence. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 agonizing seconds. The woman didn't scream. She didn't run and hide. Instead, she slowly lowered the towel from her head, tossed her damp hair back, and looked at us with a cool, appraising gaze. There was a flicker of surprise, but no fear. And in that moment, I recognized her. Jessica. Jessica Riley, Mike's college girlfriend. His first love. The one he always said ended because they were just too different. The woman he always described as a closed chapter of his past. Apparently, the book was never really closed. "Well, this is a party," Jessica said casually. She tightened the belt on her robe, walked over to the king-sized bed, and sat on the edge, crossing her legs. Her posture was that of a hostess annoyed by uninvited guests. "Jessica," I hissed. My blood was boiling at her audacity. "Hello, Sarah. Long time no see. What was the last time? Your wedding? 5 years ago?" Jessica smirked. A condescending, dismissive smirk. "Carol, you're looking well. Still Staying healthy, I see. Shut your mouth, you tramp. Carol advanced on her, her finger pointing right at Jessica's face. How dare you disrespect my family? Do you know what month this is? Do you know he has a wife? Jessica let out a small laugh. She picked up a cigarette from Mike's pack on the nightstand and lit it with a practiced ease. The smoke she exhaled tainted the air that should have been pure. Carol, let's not be vulgar. I'm not a tramp. I'm his… What would you call it, Mike? His support system? She cooed, glancing flirtatiously at Mike. He looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. You! Be quiet! I snapped at Mike. I turned my glare back to Jessica. So this is your Zen center, Mike? This is where you find your soul? Between this woman's legs? My coarse words made Mike flinch. He had never heard me speak like that. But my politeness had died 5 minutes ago. Watch your mouth, Sarah. Mike finally found his voice, raising it to defend himself. Jessica is not just some woman. She's my wife, too. Boom! A lightning bolt striking the room couldn't have been more shocking. I stumbled backward, hitting the wall. The bag in my hand almost fell again. What did you say? I whispered. Carol's eyes were wide with disbelief. You're insane, Michael. Wife? When did you get married? Who was the witness? Where? Mike took a deep breath, trying to regain some semblance of his shattered dignity. He walked over to Jessica and stood beside her. A protective gesture. We had a spiritual union ceremony, Mom. 2 months ago, up in the mountains. There were witnesses. A minister, Mike said. He looked at me. I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you weren't ready. But I intended to be fair. We're not sinning. This is legitimate. Legitimate? I repeated, tears streaming down my face. You lied to me about a retreat. You lied to me about that business trip last month. You lied to your mother, and you have the nerve to call this legitimate? It's a valid lifestyle choice, Sarah. Mike started, adopting his condescending, lecture mode tone. The one he used when explaining things to me as if I were a child. I was just trying to live my most authentic life. I was helping Jessica. She's a recent divorcee. She needed support. Bullshit! Carol spat on the carpeted floor. She marched right up to Mike. Her face was red with a fury that seemed to radiate heat. Don't you dare use some new age, self-help garbage to justify your disgusting lust, Michael. Her voice trembled with rage. An authentic life means being honest with your wife. It means having a discussion, not sneaking around like a thief in a cheap hotel. Mom, Slap. Carol slapped Mike across the face. The sound echoed in the room. Even Jessica, who had been so cool, flinched. The cigarette in her hand paused mid-air. I never taught you to be a coward. Carol seethed. If you wanted another woman, you should have come to our house, looked your wife in the eye, and told her, you bring this woman to me. You don't lie about a meditation retreat while you're shacked up in a hotel. You traded your wife's prayers and tears for a cheap thrill. Mike held his cheek, which was turning red. He looked down, unable to meet his mother's eyes. And you, Carol turned to Jessica, you're proud of this? Proud of being a secret? Of stealing another woman's husband with dirty tricks? You think you've won? Jessica looked away, blowing a stream of smoke. Mike told me your marriage was dead. That Sarah couldn't have kids. I was just giving him what he needed. Those words. They were a knife to my heart, twisted slowly. Couldn't have kids. The one fear I harbored deep inside. And it was their pillow talk. Mike, I looked at him, my vision blurred. You told her I couldn't have kids? We went to the doctor together. He said we were both fine. It just wasn't our time yet. You were the one who always said, be patient, honey. God has a plan. Was that a lie, too? Was that just an excuse for you to cheat? Mike's silence was the most painful answer of all. I smoked a brisket for you, Mike, I said, my voice hoarse, lifting the bag I was still holding. I spent 12 hours on it. I thought you were hungry at the retreat. I thought you needed a good meal to keep your strength up for meditating. Turns out you were just feasting on filth in here. Sarah, just go home. We'll talk about this later." Mike tried to dismiss us, his voice impatient. He was embarrassed. He wanted us gone so he could go back to his new life. "Go home?" Carol laughed, a cynical, humorless sound. "Oh, we're going home. But first." She snatched the insulated bag from my hand. Her movement was swift and unexpected. "Mom, what are you doing?" Mike asked, on guard. Carol unlatched the containers one by one. Click. Clack. The rich, smoky aroma of the brisket instantly filled the room, battling with the stench of smoke and sin. "Your wife made this with love, Michael." "With prayers," Carol said, her voice low and menacing. "She was fasting from her own hard work all day, but she did this for you. You rejected a blessing from your wife for this garbage." She kicked the table with the burger wrappers, sending it toppling over. Crash! Plates and cups shattered on the floor. "Are you crazy?" Jessica screamed, jumping up from the bed. "This is your late-night meal," Carol yelled. With all her might, she swung the stack of containers not at Mike, but onto the middle of the king-sized bed with its pristine white sheets. Splat! The containers burst open. Their contents exploded everywhere. The rich, dark brisket, the creamy mac and cheese, and the tangy coleslaw splattered all over the white comforter, the pillows, and Jessica's expensive-looking bathrobe. The bed where they had committed their betrayal was now a canvas of our ruined family dinner. A perfect symbol of the mess they had made. "Ah! It's hot! You're insane! You crazy old bitch!" Jessica shrieked, frantically trying to wipe the food off her robe. "Mike, look what your mother did! My robe is ruined!" Mike just stared at the chaos, his mouth agape. "Mom, my God! What are you doing? This is a hotel! They're going to charge us for damages." "Let them," Carol challenged, her chest heaving. "Let them know the price of adultery. That's the most expensive brisket you'll ever see. Its price is your dignity, which is worth nothing." She looked at Mike, her eyes blazing. "From this moment on, you can eat that trash. And don't you ever set foot in my house again. And don't you even think about touching Sarah. She is too good for a hypocrite like you." I watched the scene, the soiled bed, the hysterical Jessica, and Mike looking like a pathetic loser. Strangely, the pain in my chest began to recede, replaced by a profound sense of relief. The mask was off. The lie was exposed. I walked toward Mike, who was frantically trying to clean the mess with a tissue, more concerned about the hotel linens than his wife's heart. "Mike," I said, my voice flat. He looked up. "What? Are you happy now? Happy you've embarrassed your husband?" I pulled my wedding ring, a simple white gold band, from my finger. The ring that had been there for 5 years. The ring he had placed there with a promise of forever. I set it down on the nightstand, right next to his pack of cigarettes. "I've delivered your meal. My duties as a wife are done," I said coldly. "Finish your brisket. It's the last meal I'll ever make for you. Enjoy your retreat." I turned, took Carol's hand, which was still trembling from adrenaline, and said, "Let's go home, Mom. It stinks in here. Let's go, honey." She squeezed my hand, her grip firm and reassuring. We walked out of room 303 without looking back. Behind us, we could hear Jessica's cursing and Mike's frustrated yells. The sounds grew fainter and finally disappeared as the elevator doors closed, shielding us from their toxic world. We rode down to the lobby in silence. The terrified receptionist pretended to be busy, his head bowed. As we stepped out of the hotel, the pre-dawn air greeted us. A church bell began to chime in the distance, announcing the early morning service. In the parking lot, beside Carol's sedan, my legs finally gave out. I sank to the asphalt, and the tears came again. Not hysterical sobs, but the quiet tears of release. Carol knelt beside me, pulling me into a tight embrace under the slowly lightening sky. "Cry it all out, Sarah. Let it all out today," she whispered in my ear. her own voice choked with emotion. Because tomorrow, there will be no more tears for that man. Tomorrow, we start a new life. You're my daughter now, not just my daughter-in-law. I nodded into her shoulder. In the distance, the light in room 303 was still on. But for me, that light had gone out forever. The first light of a new day was breaking. Today, I had lost a husband, but I had found myself again. The sun had not yet fully risen as Carol's sedan cut through the still quiet streets. The eastern sky was painted with streaks of orange and pink, heralding the dawn of a new day. But inside the car, the atmosphere was heavy and gray. Carol drove in silence, her hands gripping the steering wheel as if channeling the last of her anger from room 303. I sat beside her, staring blankly out the window. "I'm so sorry, Sarah." Carol's voice, hoarse and trembling, broke the silence. I turned to her. In the corner of the strong woman's eye, a tear escaped. "Why are you sorry, Carol? You did nothing wrong," I said softly. "I failed. I failed to raise a good man. I failed to give you a husband who would honor his vows," she sobbed, her voice cracking. "When you got married, I promised your late father I would look after you through Mike. But the son I raised, the boy I taught to be good, he turned into a monster." I reached for her hand, squeezing it tight. "Carol, Mike is a grown man. He made his own choices. This isn't your fault. In fact, I'm so grateful for you. If it weren't for you tonight, I'd still be the stupid wife waiting for her husband to come home from a fake retreat." Carol pulled the car over to the side of a deserted street. She unbuckled her seatbelt and wrapped her arms around me. We cried together in that car. The tears of two women betrayed by the same man, one as a wife, the other as a mother. "Where do you want to go, honey?" "Back to your house?" she asked, after our tears subsided. I shook my head quickly. The thought of that house made me sick. The house where I'd prepared his meals, washed his clothes, and waited faithfully for him. "I can't go there, Carol. I think I need to go back to my parents in Ohio. I need some distance." "Not yet," Carol said gently. "If you go home now, your parents will be devastated. It's almost Christmas, sweetheart. Don't ruin their holiday. They'll worry themselves sick." "Then where do I go?" "You're coming home with me. You'll stay with me until this is all sorted out. Let Mike see whose side his mother is on." The offer was a lifeline. Carol's house had always been a warm and welcoming place. And most importantly, Mike was rarely there. Since we'd married, he only visited on major holidays or when he needed something. "But he'll come looking for me," I said. "Let him look. He won't dare set foot on my property after what happened tonight." "I'll make sure of it," Carol said, her eyes flashing with that familiar steeliness. That morning, I didn't go back to the home I had built with Mike for 5 years. I went to my mother-in-law's house to begin a new chapter as a woman rebuilding her shattered heart. 5 days passed since the incident at the Cypress Inn. I blocked Mike's number, his social media, every possible point of contact. Hundreds of missed calls from him flooded my phone's block list. Today, Christmas carols echoed from every direction. It was Christmas Day, the day of joy and family. But for me, it was the first Christmas I would celebrate without a husband to share it with. I sat in Carol's living room in a simple white dress. She sat beside me, elegant as always, but her eyes were sad. On the coffee table, trays of cookies and holiday treats were perfectly arranged, but no guests had arrived yet. "This is usually when we'd be waiting for Mike to come downstairs." I murmured, "Don't say his name on Christmas," Carol said flatly. "He's not worthy." Suddenly, we heard a familiar engine sound outside. A black SUV. My heart leaped into my throat. I stood up, a wave of fear washing over me. The trauma of that night was still fresh. "Stay calm, Sarah." "Sit down," Carol commanded. She stood, adjusted her shawl, and walked to the front door. I peeked through the window. It was Mike. He got out of the car wearing a wrinkled linen shirt, maybe the same one he'd left with, or a new one he'd bought in a hurry. He looked terrible. His face was unshaven, and his eyes were sunken. He walked up to the locked front gate. "Mom! Sarah! Merry Christmas!" he yelled from the street. "Open the gate, Mom. I want to apologize." Carol stepped out onto the porch but didn't approach the gate. She stood 10 yards away from her son. "We heard you," she said, her voice cold and loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Mom, please unlock the gate. I want to say I'm sorry. I messed up, Mom. I was a fool," he pleaded, shaking the iron bars. "Is Sarah in there? Tell her to come out. I'm her husband." "Husband?" Carol let out a bitter laugh. "Whose husband? Jessica's? Go wish your other wife a Merry Christmas at her hotel." A few neighbors, on their way to church, started to stare and whisper. Mike's face flushed with shame. "Mom, don't make a scene. This is a family matter," he hissed. "You're the one who shamed this family," Carol yelled, her voice cracking with emotion. "You cheated on your wife. You lied about a spiritual retreat. You disgraced your late father's name. He's turning in his grave, Michael." The mention of his father made Mike flinch. His shoulders slumped. "Go home. Don't defile this house with your presence," Carol ordered. "Mom, I don't have any money," he whined. "You froze my credit cards. My debit card is maxed out. Jessica is furious. I need money to pay for the hotel damages." His true reason for coming was revealed. Not for forgiveness, but for a bailout. Listening from inside, I felt a wave of disgust. Not anger anymore, just pure revulsion. How had I ever loved this pathetic man? I found the courage to step outside and stand beside Carol. "Sarah!" "Honey, I'm so sorry. I promise I'll leave Jessica. I'll fix everything. Please, open the gate," he begged when he saw me. I looked at him, my expression blank. "That's a nice shirt, Mike. Clean and white on the outside. But inside, you're rotten to the core. Go back to your Zen center. Maybe Jessica can give you a Christmas bonus." "Sarah," Carol pulled me back inside. "That's enough. Don't waste your breath." She slammed the front door and locked it. Outside, Mike yelled for a few more minutes before giving up. We heard his car speed away. That Christmas was bleak. But underneath the sadness, I felt a profound sense of freedom. I didn't have to pretend to be happy anymore. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in the waiting area of the county courthouse. I was here with a lawyer Carol had hired, an old family friend who specialized in divorce cases. I was filing. The grounds were clear. Fraud, adultery, and emotional distress, with the photos and recordings from that night as evidence. I wasn't asking for a complicated settlement. I just wanted a clean break. I wanted the name Michael Peterson legally severed from my life as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, across town, karma was working overtime. That afternoon, Carol received a fraud alert from her bank. Transaction denied. Supplementary credit card. Michael Peterson. At a high-end jewelry store. Amount: $15,000. Carol smirked and showed me the message. "Look, trying to buy his mistress a new toy with my money. He thinks I'm an idiot." What we heard later, from a neighbor who happened to be at the mall, was that when Mike's card was declined for the 3rd time, Jessica had a full-blown meltdown. "I thought you were a successful sales manager. You can't even afford a damn bracelet?" she reportedly screamed. "Babe, calm down. It must be a system error." "My mom probably just forgot to pay the bill," Mike had stammered. "Forgot to pay? Or you're just a leech living off your mommy?" Jessica had thrown her purse at him. "Listen, Mike. I was with you because you promised me a better life. You said your wife was boring and your mother was loaded. But if you're just a parasite whose host has cut him off, then I'm out." Jessica stormed off, leaving Mike humiliated in the middle of the mall. He had lost both women on the same day, the one who loved him unconditionally, and the one who loved his potential wallet. That evening, he showed up at Carol's house again, this time on foot. His SUV was likely repossessed. He sat on the curb outside the gate, crying like a child. "Mom, Sarah, Jessica left me. I'm all alone." We didn't open the door. We just let the neighborhood watch call security to escort him away for causing a disturbance. 1 month later, at our first mediation session, I sat across from Mike. A long table separated us. His appearance was shocking. He was thin. His shirt hung off his frame, and he had dark circles under his eyes. He looked at me with the same puppy dog eyes that used to make me melt. "Not anymore. Mrs. Peterson," the mediator said gently. "Mr. Peterson is expressing deep remorse. He admits his mistake, and his other relationship is over. Is there no room for reconciliation?" I took a deep breath and slid a folder across the table. Inside were the photos from that night. The picture of the brisket splattered across the hotel bed. The hotel receipt with his name on it. "Sir." My voice was calm but firm. "My husband told me and his mother he was going on a silent retreat to find peace and become a better man. He asked for our prayers. Instead, he used that as a cover to commit adultery." I looked at Mike directly. "Mike, if you had cheated out of a moment of weakness, maybe, just maybe, I could have considered forgiveness, as painful as it would be. But you didn't just cheat. You orchestrated a religious lie. You used spirituality as a weapon to manipulate me. That's not a mistake. That's your character. And I refuse to be married to a man who would lie to God." Mike bowed his head, his shoulders shaking. "I messed up, Sarah. I was so stressed from work. I just needed an escape." "Your escape destroyed everything." I cut him off. Mediation failed. The fallout for Mike was swift and brutal. The story of the brisket bust leaked. Maybe it was the hotel clerk. Maybe a neighbor who recorded his Christmas meltdown. A short video of Jessica shrieking, covered in food, went viral in local community groups and eventually reached Mike's coworkers. The day after mediation, Mike was called into HR. His company had a strict code of conduct. An internal audit also found he had been falsifying expense reports for years, including billing the company for business trips that were actually his getaways with Jessica. He was given a choice: resign or be fired for cause. He walked out of his office with his belongings in a cardboard box. He had lost his wife, his mother, his mistress, and now his job. His friends, once they heard the full, sordid story, wanted nothing to do with him. He ended up in a cheap, stuffy room in a boarding house on the edge of town, living off what little severance he had. 3 months later, the judge's gavel came down. Thud. The court grants the petitioner's request for dissolution of marriage. The words were the most beautiful music I had ever heard. I shook the judge's hand. Mike's chair was empty. He couldn't afford a lawyer anymore and was too ashamed to show his face. As I walked out of the courtroom, Carol was waiting. When she saw me smile, holding the divorce decree, she opened her arms. "Praise God," she whispered as she hugged me. "My daughter is free. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for being with me through all of this," I said sincerely. We walked out of the courthouse, into the bright sunshine. "All right. Our first stop is the butcher," Carol said with a newfound energy. "The butcher? Why?" "To buy brisket, of course," she winked. "The mayor's office just increased their catering order for tomorrow's luncheon by 50 plates. Your brisket is the talk of the town." That was the silver lining in all of this. A month ago, to process my grief, I had made another brisket. Carol tasted it and said, "This is too good to waste on a cheater's face. We should sell it." We started a small catering business called Sarah and Carol's Kitchen. Our signature dish? Midnight brisket. The name was a bit cheeky, but it got people talking. Thanks to Carol's connections and my recipe, the orders flooded in. I was busy. I was productive, and my bank account was growing from my own hard work, not from a liar's paycheck. In the car, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I knew it was Mike. "Sarah, congrats on the divorce. I heard your catering business is a huge success. I'm driving for Uber now. It's hard to make ends meet. I was wondering if you ever have any leftovers. I miss your cooking." I read the message. I felt no pain, no anger, just a distant pity. I typed a short reply. Sorry, Mike. We always sell out. No leftovers. And even if there were, I'd rather give them to a stray dog than to someone who betrayed his family. I hope you find what you're looking for. Don't forget to pray. For real. This time. Block. I put my phone away. Who was that? Carol asked, starting the car. Nobody, Mom. Just spam, I said with a smile. The car pulled out of the courthouse parking lot, heading towards the market, heading towards the future. I am Sarah, a 29-year-old divorcee. I lost a husband, but I gained my life, my self-respect, and the best mother a woman could ask for. My prayers were no longer for a hypocritical man, but for myself, offered directly to a God who never sleeps and who had saved me from a lie. And that brisket? Oh, that brisket now tasted sweet as freedom.